little boys and girls, it's me, Michael Jackson. Hey, hey! Today we're talking about my favorite little girl, Dirty Diane. Hey, hey!
Golly.
Ow!
Welcome back
Come on, ya!
to Beyond the Campfire. I am one of your hosts, Stephen the Indian, aka Sahil Disciple, along with Michael Jackson, apparently.
Yeah,
And
yeah. We're gonna go Neverland after this. Ow! Come on,
um,
ya!
so Beyond the Campfire, if you are new, we talk about conspiracy theories, cryptids, anything that goes bump the night or that you would maybe want to talk about at a campfire. And on today's episode, we will be talking about Princess Diana.
Yep.
Before we get into it, though, Will, if you could give out our socials if you want to follow us
Yeah.
and continue the podcast.
Well, first off, I'm not actually Michael Jackson. I'm actually Will, the cowboy, the sex appeal. And you guys, you lovely s'mores, can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Beyond Campfire, on TikTok at Beyond the Campfire, and then everywhere else is just Beyond the Campfire. So there you go. Yeah. So as Steven said, we're talking about Diane, Princess Diana, and there's a reason. Like, you guys would probably be thinking that I would be covering such a crazy conspiracy theory. Not a very crazy conspiracy theory, as Steven will tell us. But I thought we'd let the more level-headed one cover this episode.
For sure. So, yeah, I guess we can go ahead and get into it. So, Princess Diana, was obviously married to the future King of England, current King of England now, but at the time he was only Prince Charles.
Ew.
The British royal family. I'm not going to give an extensive history of them, but obviously they've been very prominent in British life for a number of years, and even to this day, people always seem to be giving them a lot of attention and seeing what they're up to. But in the early 1980s, Princess Diana, then 20 years old, married Prince Charles, who I believe was, what was he, 31 or something at the time?
He was a little older.
Yeah, let me look it up. Okay, so he was 32, so she was 20. He was 32. I could make an age gap joke here, but I I will refrain. But yeah, obviously, I'm actually not sure when they met. But if she was under 18 when they started talking, that's
a little weird.
Yeah, we got some grooming going on.
All right,
by the way,
disrespect.
By the way, I'm a King Charles hater. So for the record,
I don't like him either.
I'm a King Charles hater. I'm actually not that big of a fan of Princess Diana either. Which that might make some of our female listeners mad.
I think some of the things she did were good. At least from what I've read, she seemed to have done some good things.
For sure, she's definitely the more respectable of the two of them. I think they were both bad though, and that's just my personal opinion. And we'll get into some of her other romances. King Charles is way worse. I don't want to make it seem like Diana was as bad as Prince Charles in either way, but I mean, there's pretty good evidence she was having her own set of affairs too. So anybody doing stuff, I'm not gonna say they're a good person, but but anyway, she definitely was a victim. She was a lot younger than King Charles. The way King Charles treated her and the things that he put her through, he was definitely the much more. He was just the evil man in a lot of ways. I don't hesitate to say that he was very cruel to her.
Well, you saw his portrait recently. Did you see the portrait they did for him recently where he looks like the devil?
That meme. It's become a meme now. I'm editing this video later, so yeah, I'll have.
He might edit it later. It depends how I feel, because I'm kind of like, I don't. We'll see.
But yeah, why am I giving all this background? Princess Diana's death was shocking. It was, because she wasn't that old when she died. She she was under 40. Like she was what, 37, 38,
Yeah.
possibly even younger than that. And it caught the world by surprise. And when we're talking about how is it that somebody like her could have passed away at such a young age, well, obviously when somebody famous dies, people like to point a finger, and naturally King Charles and the royal family are a natural target.
Well,
um,
I'll say this. I think the reason why some people like to point fingers during certain deaths, if you hear of, like for example, Elvis, Elvis died of natural causes, so there's no one really to point a finger for blame. However, with a death like Diana's, you have to ask some questions. There are certain people that when they've died, and like one person we're going to talk in the future, like Jimmy Hoffa, who disappeared. When people go missing or if they are killed and they're at a young age and the death is something that could have been prevented, and then you look at the circumstances beforehand, like we're going to do with Diana, it really makes you start questioning and asking the question of who is truly behind it. And that's the reason why I think a lot of people ask and point fingers, is because you look at her history. She was a very well liked person. Her affairs aside, she had a lot of good policies, a lot of good things she did with AIDS victims and everything like that. And
yeah, I
then
agree.
and then she dies, and it's very curious because, as we'll learn later, there's some things that happen that can lead you to question it. So I think that's the reason why we kind of have, there are some people that die, and we want to point fingers and we want to ask more questions because we weren't given a whole lot of answers.
Yeah, for sure. And there was things like even after her death that were just very suspicious. So anyway, I could keep hinting at those things, but or I could actually just straight up talk about it. So let's get into it. August 31st, 1997. The world finds out that Princess Diana has passed away in a car accident, and immediately there's questions, right? So let's build the case. She's not the only one that passed away. The driver, Henry Paul, was also killed in the accident. Princess Diana's lover at the time, an Egyptian film producer, Dadi Fayed. Dadi Fayed was also killed in the crash. And yeah, there's just a lot of rumors about going on. So prior to the accident, the there's pretty good evidence that the royal family did not like what Princess Diana was doing,
Mm-hmm.
even though she separated and divorced from King Charles for a number of years. At that point, they had been separated for about 4 or 5 years
Yeah.
by the time she passes away. But inextricably, she's linked, right? She's linked to King Charles. She's linked to the royal family. And although she's no longer in relationship with King Charles, although the royal family is no longer her family, hey, people associate her with the royal family.
Yeah.
And so when she is having relationships with other men, when she's engaging in various political activities, and we'll talk about some of that because that feels one of the other conspiracy theories, naturally, the royal family is going to be like, the actions Diana takes are going to come back on us. They are going to reflect on us.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Diana is in a relationship with Dadi Fayed, a Muslim man, and there's pretty good evidence that Dadi Fayed is either about to propose to her or maybe has already proposed to her, the royal family naturally are going to feel like our children's stepfather is going to be a Muslim man. And
Mm-hmm.
the royal family not for that. They were not
Yeah.
going to be associated with Muslims. Will, did you have
Wasn't
any thoughts or comments?
Yeah, I was going to ask because I know like a lot of people talk about how they not a lot of the royal family liked Diana. Didn't Queen Elizabeth like her the most out of the family? Like I thought she was kind of like the queen's favorite.
It certainly seemed that way. They definitely had more friendly interactions than the rest of them. There's some rumors of like stuff Queen Elizabeth might have said behind the scenes. You know, if I had to guess, I don't think Queen Elizabeth hated her. I do think she was probably uncomfortable with some of the things that Princess
Mhm.
Diana was doing, but I I do think what you said was probably correct. She probably had a friendlier relationship with
Yeah.
Diana than some. So.
Yeah, I think because one of the most savage things the queen has done that I've seen was like Camilla, um, you know,
Uh,
Charles's new wife. Apparently at their wedding, you know, like it's kind of rude to wear white to a wedding.
hmm
The queen showed up in white.
She did. She
Freaking
did.
savage.
So
80-year-old savage over here. Watch out.
Queen Elizabeth mic drop moment for sure. Slay Queen, as the kids say these days, right? So,
Yep.
oh man, that might be the first and last time you hear me say that. Well, we'll see. I say a lot of crazy stuff on this podcast, so not as much as Will, but sometimes you'll get a crazy statement out of me.
Hey man, it's like we're recording the earliest we have in like the last 3 weeks, and like because it's so early, I'm like chock full of energy. That's why I was able to
Oh
keep
no,
that bit going on earlier.
there you go. So we know she had tension with the royal family for sure. We know that a lot of the royal family didn't like her and they didn't like her actions and they didn't like that she was dating a Muslim man. Why why kill her, right? Why
Hmm.
kill her? Um, let's get into the conspiracy theories. So the biggest conspiracy theory, I'll probably go in order of importance. So there's about three major conspiracy theories. There's other ones too, but I'm going to focus on the big three, and the first one's the biggest one. So we'll go ahead and camp there for quite a bit before ending the podcast with the last two. But the royal family, right? They
Yep.
didn't like her. Dadi Fayed, Muslim man. If Diana marries him, has his kids, you have the royal family being embarrassed of having a Muslim man being, one of their the stepfather of the king's children, and that can be so. Again, most commonly reported conspiracy theory: Diana and her lover Dadi Al Fayed were murdered by British royal family using secret agents. This theory has gained a lot of prominence because of Dadi Al Fayed's father, Mohammed Al Fayed. So after the death of Dadi Al Fayed and Princess Diana, Mohammed Al Fayed launched his own investigation into the
Mm,
death. He's the one that starts to argue, hey, they killed my son. He says the royal family, the British establishment, they could not face the prospect of Diana's two sons having a Muslim stepfather, and their very existence would be a millstone around the neck of the royals. This is Muhammad Al Fayed's words.
yep.
A millstone around the neck of the royals. So he starts to propagate this theory that rogue M16 agents carried out the killing without their handlers' knowledge. And this continues to be the biggest of the conspiracy theories today. Again, propagated by Dadi Al Fayed's father. And motive wise, it makes sense. I'll get into maybe some of the other possible evidence in just a second. But, well, what do you think about that motive? Do you think that's enough for the British family to take some kind of action, or do you think people are pulling this motive a little
I
too far?
think
Go ahead.
I now listen. I am one of the people that believe that the royal family was behind it. If it wasn't the royal family that was behind it, I definitely think King Charles had something to do with this. I
Okay.
think that is kind of maybe one reason they would have done it because having the royal family's been just a bunch of white folk forever now. To kind of bring in mixed like that, and there's not really anybody I don't think in the royal family who's married somebody that's not white. I mean, was Prince Philip was like Greek, but still like I think he was mostly white. So I could see
There's
that
Meg.
being a motive,
There's
and the
Meghan
reason
Markle.
why some knowledge that I know about with the thing is I think like the CCTV cameras in the tunnel, nobody was able to get a clear shot of what happened. And then like the other crazy thing is after the wreck, Diana's ambulance kept like going around a couple blocks and it took her forever to get to the hospital. When if it had gotten to the hospital like on time, like it should have, she would have been saved. So there's just so many factors. And I really think now, could it have been because she was going to marry a Muslim? Maybe. Could there have been more that we don't know about? Maybe. But do I think the royal family killed her? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Let's talk about that because, for me personally, just because someone has the motive doesn't mean they're going to act out on it. Because there's people I have disagreements with. There's some people that I have some serious disagreements with. And, you know, being completely honest, like with some of the people I've been very angry at or upset at in my life, and this is just something I have to bring before God at times, but it's just like, would it have been convenient if some of these people I've been angry at, if they had been unalived at certain points? Sure, it might have been convenient.
Well,
does I am going to go out and cause their death to happen? No. Okay, I
there's a
you can hate
difference.
some taking steps to do that.
Yeah. Well, there's a difference between you and the royal family, and that's that they got money and you don't.
For sure.
Because if somebody like, let's say you're driving down the freeway and some dude cuts you off and you pull up next to him and pull out a shotgun and blast him, you're not going to get away with that. If somebody could end up smearing your name, your family's name, and all that kind of stuff, and you're like, we've got to do something about this, and you go kill that person, there's going to be a police report, there's going to be all this kind of stuff, and you're going to get arrested. Unlike with the Clintons and with the royal family, they've got money, they've got power, they got people at their disposal who would die for them and do whatever it took, So what I'm trying to say is, don't kill people because you disagree with them unless you got the money. Then you could do whatever you want. Money is power, kids.
Life advice with Will the Cowboy, ladies and gentlemen. So
money is power.
I digress. So Mohammed Al-Fayed, motive alone is not enough to convince me, right? Because there definitely could be a motive. I could see why the royal family would want to get rid of Dadi Al-Fayed and Princess Diana. Sure enough, there's pretty good evidence that hours before the death of Princess Diana, that Dadi had at least bought a ring, possibly maybe even secretly have proposed. There's some conflicting reports about that. It seemed pretty evident that he had bought a ring, whether that was an engagement ring, whether that was just another ring that he wanted to give to her, whether he was going to propose that night, because some people believe he was going to propose that night.
Yeah.
All of that was kind of up in the air, but certainly, the motive is there for the British family to stop that. There's another rumor that Princess Diana was already pregnant with Dadi Al-Fayed's child. And at the time of... Go ahead.
I said dun dun dun.
Yeah, dun dun dun. Yeah, secret Muslim baby about to be born. So
SMB.
But Diana identified as a Christian, right? Or had she become more agnostic or something?
Maybe if she was probably Catholic.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of British people are Catholic.
Off the top of my head, I know the British royal family is Anglican, so I didn't know if I don't know if Diana was also that. Anyway, whatever it may be, Fayed had even publicly said that. Now this is Mohammed Fayed, okay, not Dadi Fayed, but Mohammed Fayed has publicly stated that Diana phoned him on the night she died to tell him about the pregnancy. So, did that actually happen? Where it's one of those things where maybe you take Mohammed Al-Fayed's word for it. Maybe he's lying. Maybe he's trying to bluster even more sympathy for his son and for his possibly future daughter-in-law. But yeah, Mohammed Al-Fayed at least publicly has stated, she called me, she told me she was pregnant, and that same night she died. What are your thoughts so far, Will?
It's so fishy.
It is very fishy.
Smell that? Doesn't smell like my ex, but it smells fishy.
I I think that's a little convenient for Mohammed Al Fayed. Now, maybe it's possible, right? Maybe it's possible that she was pregnant and she told him about it the day he died. But that does seem a little bit convenient for him that she called him, told him about a pregnancy the day they
Yeah.
died. Like that, that fits a little bit too well for his conspiracy theory. Because here's the thing. Now, maybe you're assuming Mohammed Al Fayed is a honest person who just wants the truth to be told about losing his son
Yeah.
and losing his. But I mean, I also think it's very possible for Mohammed Al Fayed to be a bad actor. Maybe for him, this is now. I do think he genuinely was sad about her death and his son's death. But I also do think this is a way for him to capitalize and make himself famous. You know, if he can spout.
Yeah.
So I I think he has some bad motives too. I certainly do think the royal family might have some bad motives, but I also do think Mohammed Al Fayed might be a bad actor. Now, this is where I start to believe the conspiracy theory because if Diana was pregnant, there's a way for us to find that out, right?
Yeah.
After her death, we can get her body and we can test her blood and we can see was she actually pregnant. That possibility has been lost. Why was that? When Diana was being taken away by the paramedics and driven to the hospital, the paramedics illegally embalmed her body before the autopsy was done. And for people that know anything about medical processes and the procedures done for that, when you embalm the body, it basically becomes impossible to test the blood at that point. So, because the people in the ambulance have embalmed her body before, we don't know. There's no way to know if she was pregnant or not.
That's ridiculous.
Will, what do you think about that?
That's fishy.
It's very suspicious. These are trained medical professionals. Why are they embalming her body before the autopsy? It's very
the other
strange.
thing too is like, and this goes back to what I was telling you, like, you know, she didn't die on scene. Like she was still alive when they pulled her from that car. And then they took their time to get to the hospital. And now you're telling me that they embalmed her. She died on the way to the hospital and then they embalmed her. That you don't just do that, just like you wait. You know what I mean? That's fishy.
No, yeah. Yeah, so it's one of those things. Here are some reports talking about it. It says tests have shown that it is possible to detect pregnancy hormones in very old blood stains. But yeah, some of the missing blood stains have gone missing. Tests ran on Diana's blood. Done by British police have said no, there's no way that she was pregnant. But again, this gets into the question, well, hey, who has some power and influence over the British police?
Right.
The royal family. Yeah.
Royal family.
You want to see British family, royal family certainly had the means and the method to do it. So
yeah.
There was a few other things that was weird that night. So there's another conspiracy theory that Henry Paul was also part of the plot to murder Diana. So Henry Paul was the driver. Now, people try to debunk this by saying, well, hey, Henry Paul also died that night. Why would he be part of a plot of which he also dies? There's two things that are suspicious about Henry Paul. So conspiracy theorists said that Henry Paul was told that their car would be hit from the back, which would kill Diana and Dadi Al Fayed, but keep him alive. Another thing that's very suspicious about Henry Paul, so before he died, they checked his bank account and he had mysteriously received hundreds of thousands of dollars that he had not had before, just a few days. Now, why would he be getting hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Yeah. Interesting. Unless he got paid off.
But I could see the British royal family saying, "Hey, we give you a few $100,000 and you help us. You help us murder Diana, right? You help us murder Dadi Al Fayed." It's very possible.
Yeah.
Shortly before Paul died, there is talks of this flash. So let me pull that up. And again, this kind of supports the theory that Henry Paul didn't know that he was also going to die. Right?
Yeah.
But there was another eyewitness, and they report seeing a bright flash that would have blinded Henry Paul right before his death. So the other eyewitness says they saw a bright flash of light in the dark tunnel. All of a sudden, Henry Paul loses control and he crashes the car. What
Yeah.
was this bright flash? What do you think, Will?
See, okay, so that's where, like, here's what I was going to say, and this is just kind of my thought on it. Is a lot of times when you, and this could even go into when we talk about JFK being killed by the CIA, how Lee Harvey Oswald was killed shortly after. His killer was killed and this sort of thing. And so that's where, like, when you talk about people, mysteriously, like Diane dying and us not knowing why she died and everything like that, hearing that the driver was paid off and was told, "Hey, we'll keep you alive. You just got to crash the car. We'll hit you from the back. It'll be all fine." Okay. It would make sense to me. Like if you told him, "Yeah, we're going to kill you in this crash," I wouldn't do it. But if you told me I was going to live and then you hand me a whole bunch of money, I would do it. But now that he would, if he got paid, $100,000, who's not to say that if he had survived, what if somebody paid him, what if a news company paid him $500,000 to let him run a story about what really happened? So what's the best option? Well, you take out your witnesses and you kill who seen and you talk to. So that would make sense of why they would probably throw a flashbang or something, stun, the driver, make him crash. Now he's dead. The only person that knew about the whole plot is now dead. That would probably actually talk.
No, for sure, yeah. And and I want to get into a lot of what you just said because, yeah. Here's the thing. There's been a lot of mysterious um, deaths, particularly car accidents, surrounding the royal family. I'm
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
I'm gonna do a quick slide and talk about one of Princess Diana's previous lovers. So,
Ah.
Princess Diana had previously had a relationship with actually one of her security guards. So when she married King Charles, she was given a security detail. One of those was a man named Barry Manicky. So
Mm-hmm.
Barry Manicky was assigned to be one of her bodyguards, and King Charles started to have affairs. It's pretty well documented that he was doing that. Um, so obviously, this deeply hurts Princess Diana, and not to excuse her behavior either, but you can. I think on some level you can at least sympathize. Like, hey, if you have a husband who's cheating on you, well, you're gonna go look
Mm-hmm.
for love in other places, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, what makes it even worse is that he wasn't just cheating on her. He traded a Corvette for a freaking station wagon.
oh yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah.
Camilla is not that good looking. And then you look at Diane, and he literally traded a Ferrari or a Corvette for a station wagon, a minivan. Continue.
Absolutely. That'll be a fun clip for Haley to do later. Um, but Diana, a few years into the marriage, and later when people start to talk about her, she's asked in an interview about. She doesn't say the name, but she says that there was a man in the palace that she fell in love with, and
Mm,
Diana has repeatedly on record said that she felt like this man was her true love.
yeah.
Now, of course, she had a relationship with Dadi Al Fayed later on, but prior to her relationship with Dadi Al Fayed, she said she felt like there was really only one man that she ever loved. And sure enough, I mean, there's pretty good evidence that she had an affair with uh, with Maneki, the security guard.
Yeah.
Later, sure enough, after he was dismissed because of these allegations, they did actually date for a period of time until his death in 1987. And well, do you wanna take a guess of how he died?
Car crash.
Yep, mysterious car accident. Mysterious car accident.
Bro,
So,
can't make it up.
if what Princess Diana is, if what she is saying is true, well, hey, the royal family might have because here's the thing: before her death, Princess Diana was spreading this conspiracy theory herself that Manaki was killed by the royal family. She said they knew that I loved him, they knew that I had a relationship with him, and they said it would be very convenient for them if he died. And sure enough, he does die, and she says as much too. She says, let me see if I can find the quotes of what Princess Diana was saying about his death. But Princess Diana was a believer that the royal family had bumped him off. So she repeatedly on the record she said she had said that yeah, she said, there's no doubt in my mind that my true love was bumped off. She had repeatedly called for deeper investigations into his death. Uh, and there's mysterious circumstances even of his death. I'm not going to get into that much as well. But I have one last piece of evidence before, and the episode's starting to get a little long, which is okay.
Yeah,
We don't
fine.
have to stop right at the. If we want to go to 40 minutes or even 50 minutes, we probably won't go that long. But
No.
the last piece of evidence I have for Princess Diana having been murdered by the royal family is her note.
She wrote
So
a
2 years before her death, she had a note. So while I looked that up, Will, did you have any thoughts, comments, or anything on the death of
Well,
Manaki?
I do think the royal family could be behind it because car crashes is a good way to cover up a murder. Or you
Mm-hmm.
could pull a Clinton and shoot the guy and then have the plane crash.
For sure. For
Or stage a
sure.
robbery. They did that too.
Mm-hmm. Let's get into the Mishkan note, because this is a note where Princess Diana could have possibly predicted her death 2 years before it happened.
Mm.
So the Mishkan note refers to an infamous note written by Viktor Mishkan in 1995, who was Princess Diana's legal advisor. The Mishkan note refers to a note reportedly taken by Mishkan during a meeting he had with Princess Diana in October 30th, 1995. During the meeting, which also included Princess Diana's personal secretary, Patrick Jeffson, Diana reportedly said that she had heard from a source that efforts were being made to get rid of her by April 1996. Now, obviously, her timeline was off. She didn't pass away until August of 1997, about a year and 4 months after she predicted she would be
Yeah.
probably killed. According to the note, the source allegedly told Diana that she would die via car accident that would either end
Yeah.
her life or injure her so far as to make her appear unbalanced.
Yep. I've heard of that note. I believe that note to be true. I think that's
It was from her legal advisor in a
yeah.
private meeting.
And it was
Uh,
1995, 2 years prior. That
mhm.
just that spells something fishy.
For sure, yeah. So it seems like Princess Diana herself believed that she would be offed in some way
Yeah.
via car accident. Sure enough, that's how she died.
And listen, if
So
the victim is sitting there and is paranoid like that, you know that is true because she was probably in fear for her life at that point. That's probably why she
mhm,
had that meeting.
yeah. There's been several attempts to discredit the note. So Mishkan, although he never denied that Princess Diana did say that, he did say at the time when he was taking the notes, he thought that Princess Diana was being maybe paranoid, that she was overthinking, that she was possibly maybe being a little bit foolish. But a month before his death. So Victor Mishkan passed away in 2005. Also under somewhat seemingly mysterious circumstances, but again, we won't get into that too much. But about a month before he died, he held course to the fact that Diana thought at the time that she was going to die, that someone was out to get there. And so up until his death, Mishkan admitted that like 100% she believed she was afraid of something. He thought she was being paranoid, but he said, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, she was nervous that somebody was out to get her.
Makes sense.
Makes sense. Okay. I'm going to get into the last two conspiracy theories very briefly. There's really not a ton of evidence for these ones, but people like to talk about them. So I'm going to speed run these last two conspiracy theories. Second one is that Diana faked her death. Here's the thing. She had been separated from King Charles for 4 years up to this point. But guess what? There was still paparazzi on her. Actually, when she got into her car accident, her car was being followed by paparazzi.
Yep.
Right? There's a good deal of reports that Diana in private meetings had talked about how annoyed she was by paparazzi, that she was really just trying to move on with her life and live in.
Yeah. Uh-oh, Steve. Well, folks, while we wait for Steven to get back, no, I can't hear you, but knock, knock. And you guys say, who's there? And then I say, Apple. Wait. Yeah, and then I go, knock, knock. No, wait. Yeah. And you go, who's there? And then I go, Apple. And you go, Apple who? And then I go, knock, knock. And then you go, who's there? And then I say, Apple. And then you go,
Okay.
and then I go, knock, knock. Who's there? And then I go, orange. And you go, orange who? And I'm like, aren't you glad I didn't say Apple again? Welcome back, Steve.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, yeah. I thought I put my phone on silent so that I wouldn't take any calls, but yeah, somehow a phone call came through and I wasn't able to exit out of it.
Was it a spam caller?
No, it was my friend, but
I was fixing to make a joke that if it was a spam caller, I bet it was just a family member calling.
I know, right? Thank you. Come again. Is
All
your
right.
laptop working?
So she faked her death.
Before I be racist towards my own race anymore.
Can you even be racist towards your own race?
Oh yeah, dude. Indians. No offense to any Indians watching this podcast. I'm sure the ones listening to this podcast are great people. But Indians are super duper racist. It's actually a problem. So.
Wow.
Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, Diana faking her death. Yeah. Right. So obviously she was tired of it, and there's a theory that her crash was meant to be fake, and yet went horribly wrong, right? Because there's no doubt that she
did die.
Yeah, she did die,
She's
right?
Not hanging out in Argentina with Hitler,
Right. Yeah. This is not a John Wilkes Booth. This is not a Elvis Presley. They replaced her body with somebody and got away or anything like that.
Yeah, they're not all a reunion down in Argentina,
For sure. She definitely did die, but the conspiracy theory is that she was planning to fake her own death. She had set up conditions to fake her own death, but accidentally, rather than the car being faked into a car accident, Henry Paul, the driver, messed up, and they ended up actually dying instead of fake dying.
Damn.
It's pretty well established that Henry Paul was drunk at the time of the driving, which again, was he intending to be drunk? Was he actually drunk? Him being drunk actually kind of supports the common narrative that he was just being an idiot and the royal family was not involved. Princess Diana was not involved. Like this just truly was just genuinely an accident. But so again, and that's why I'm 90% sure that somebody killed Princess. But part of me feel like maybe it truly was an accident. I think there's just too many suspicious things for me to fully commit to the common narrative that it truly was an accident. But for those that believe Stephen and Will, you guys are idiots.
What happened now, man? All right, apples and oranges, oranges and apples. My dog got hit by a car. Haha. Welcome back, Steve.
For sure. So people keep calling me, man. That one was actually a spam call. But I knew how to cancel it. But
Steven gets the phone call, answers it. Hello. Hello. Welcome to India Tech Support. I want to help you with your Apple computer. Cousin, is this you?
Yeah, like my third or fourth cousin or something like that, right? Okay, so that's the second one. Okay, final conspiracy theory. Arms dealers. Diana. Yeah, Diana, near the end of her life, started to aggressively campaign for a ban on landmines, a reduction in arms sales, things that would hurt defense contractors, some world governments, and some government officials, not necessarily the royal family, but maybe some arms dealers or things from other countries didn't like that. Because again, Princess Diana, she was not holding any particular public office, but she was well liked by the world. She could influence some governments to ban landmines, to cancel arms sales, and guess who's that's going to hurt?
Arms dealers.
Arms dealers. So the conspiracy theories is that these people, and I don't really buy this argument because none of these conspiracy theories could tell you who they is, right?
Right.
But they would say that these mysterious arm dealers, whoever they are, had incentive to kill off Princess Diana to protect their contracts. There's really not much else to say about that conspiracy theory. Like I said, the evidence for it is completely shoddy, but that's probably the last of the third major conspiracy theories, if you even want to call the last two the major conspiracy theories. But there y'all have it. Was Princess Diana murdered?
Well,
and if so, by who?
Well, you know what I think? See, at first, I was like, you know what? It's got to be the royal family, right? But then you mentioned the arms dealers, and I'm like, you know who else does shady business that could definitely get people killed?
Who?
The Clintons. Bill and Hillary took out Princess Diana. No, I really do think though that the most likely thing is I don't think it was an accident. I definitely think someone was behind it. And if anybody was behind it, I definitely think it's the royal family. And it might not be the motives that like we saw, like the whole Muslim thing. There might be more that we just don't know about. And that's why I really feel and am pulled to that. If it wasn't the royal family, it was definitely somebody like Prince Charles. But that's my two. It's either the royal family, and if it wasn't the whole royal family, it was at least just Prince Charles.
For sure. I mean, there's definitely a motive, right? So,
right.
And here's the thing: she was part of the family. There's probably things she knew about them that they wouldn't want getting out. So,
right.
Now she probably was on some kind of NDA, non-disclosure agreement, for the decades leading up to her death. But if she gets married to Dadi Al Fayed, then now she's under the protection of some powerful Egyptian officials.
Right.
Well, maybe now and maybe she can talk about the British royal family a little bit more.
Exactly. And then we find out that they're actually all werewolves.
Right. So, but yeah, that's all I have. Dude, we should put up a poll on our Instagram and Twitter about, hey, do you think Princess Diana was murdered? If so, by who? And I think that could get us some engagement. But
all right, I'll definitely post that, and then I'll be like, check out tomorrow's episode.
Yeah. But thank you guys for listening, and yeah, that's really all I have. So, Will, any thoughts, comments, or concerns before we close out this one out?
Nope. But buckle up for next week because it's going to get even more controversial.
Yay, controversy!
And it's Steven again this time. We're putting him under the bus.
Hey, we do what we can around here.
It'd be racist to say we're putting him under the taxi cab.
Oh boy.
But yeah, y'all have a good weekend. Drink and drive and crash into tunnels. I'm kidding. Don't do that. But if you do that, blame the royal family.
Blame the royal family.
Have a good weekend, y'all.